I would encourage listeners to make sure you have a full tank of gas wherever you're going and pack some snacks. Doesn't matter because there's going to be traffic. This, as we all know, doesn't happen very often. And this might be the last time some of our generations get to see it. And so be patient.
From the river to the valley to the sea. All the places, all the people that you can meet.
Welcome to the Mississippi Valley Traveler Podcast. I'm Dean Klinkenberg, and I've been exploring the deep history and rich culture of the people and places along America's greatest river, the Mississippi, since 2007. Join me as I go deep into the characters and places along the river and occasionally wander into other stories from the Midwest and other rivers. Read the episode show notes and get more information on the Mississippi at MississippiValleyTraveler.com. Let's get going. Welcome to episode 35 of the Mississippi Valley Traveler Podcast. In this episode, we're going to go deep into the full solar eclipse that's coming up on April 8th, 2024, which happens to fall on a Monday. We're going to dive into some tips to help you view the eclipse with the most fun you can possibly have, and preferably the fewest hassles, although there are going to be hassles. The most important tips: relax and bring lots of patience. Plus, you're probably going to want to bring along some snacks and fill up your gas tank before you go. There are a lot of places this time around to experience the eclipse, including a whole bunch of Arkansas. Places smack dab in the center of the eclipse will see totality for over 4 minutes this time around. And even though St. Louis isn't quite in the path of totality, in the St. Louis region we'll still have 99% of the sun eclipsed by the moon. So in this episode, I'm talking with Alison Dubbert from Missouri State Parks and Cory Jobe from Great River and Routes Tourism Bureau in Alton, Illinois. We talk about some of the places that are likely to be the busiest, most overrun with people trying to see the eclipse, and we have a few ideas about where you might be able to go where the crowds could be a little bit smaller. One thing I'm pretty sure about is the harder you have to work to get there, the fewer people you'll be sharing the eclipse with. So maybe look for a place with a decent hike to get to an open area where you can feel the eclipse's full effect in that way. As I mentioned in the interview with Cory, I kind of wondered if you might be able to just pick a small town in southern Illinois somewhere and look for a city park and just go and take in the eclipse there. You're probably going to be away from most of the crowds if you do that as well. A lot of places are having viewing parties, including the one in Collinsville, Illinois that Cory mentioned. Just go to the show notes and I'll have a link to the full descriptions of what's going on in Missouri and Illinois. Now, if you haven't booked a room yet, time's running out. Time's running pretty darn short. So at this point, your best bet is probably to look for rooms in the St. Louis area. And probably, if you're smart, you'll do it for both Sunday and Monday night, since it's really a bit of a wild card how long it's going to take you to get back to St. Louis or get away from the eclipse viewing site. And just out of curiosity, I looked up rooms in the Carbondale area for those 2 nights around the eclipse, and well, I hope you're rich. There's hardly anything left, and the few rooms that are still available start at about $400 a night, and most of them were around $600 a night and up. Now, because the eclipse doesn't really get going until the afternoon, it's entirely possible to do this as a day trip. So depending upon where you're starting from, you could just leave early in the morning and have some time to look around for a place to view it. I would think in the morning, if you get a good early start, there's probably not going to be quite as much traffic as there will be afterwards. But I would say, that's a possibility for a lot of folks. As I said earlier, carry a full supply of patience for this. And bring a pair of viewing glasses if you're going to be in a place where they're going to hand them out. And I think I'd add, like, as the eclipse really gets going, do all you can to minimize distractions like noises from your cell phone, and just really pay attention to how the world around you changes as the eclipse progresses. I was lucky enough to experience the 2017 eclipse on an island in the Mississippi, and I got to say, it was a remarkable experience. And we were free from social media and other things that might have distracted us, and we could just pay attention and watch the world around us as it changed, and it was really a remarkable experience. The places that we mentioned in this episode, I'll include something about them in the show notes at MississippiValleyTraveler.com/podcast. And a shout out, as always, to those of you who show me some love through Patreon. If you support this podcast through Patreon, you not only get the satisfaction of helping to keep it going, being part of what makes this podcast work, you'll also get to hear episodes before everybody else. If you would like to join this community, go to patreon.com/Dean Klinkenberg. If Patreon's not really your thing, you can just buy me a coffee. One-time contribution. I drink plenty of coffee, so every penny toward that habit is appreciated. Go to MississippiValleyTraveler.com/podcast where you'll find the instructions. Now, let's get on to the interviews. Alison Dubbert is the Chief Resource Interpreter with Missouri State Parks, and she's here to talk to us a little bit today about how you might be able to view the April eclipse in Missouri. Welcome to the podcast, Alison.
Thank you, Dean, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So why don't we start off by just telling people a little bit about Missouri State Parks, the scope of what you do, how many parks are there, what can people expect from a state park experience?
Sure. So Missouri State Parks preserves and interprets the best examples of Missouri's natural and cultural resources. We have 93 state parks and historic sites. We provide recreation opportunities, camping, educational programming, tours. We have trails. Pretty much you want to do it outside or learn about Missouri's history, we got you covered.
Awesome. And for the most part, there is no entry fee for Missouri State Parks, correct?
Yeah, our parks are free. Some of our tours at our historic sites, those do have a small fee, but entry into our parks is always free.
So what exactly does the Chief Resource Interpreter do?
I always get asked what language do I speak when people hear that I'm an interpreter. And I guess I can say, well, I speak the language of our natural and cultural resources. So it's my job and the job of our interpreters to translate those natural and cultural resources to the public and help them understand why it's important to protect those things and what we do and help them learn about them.
Fantastic. So lots of things to do in Missouri State Parks, which is very handy because we have a big event coming up on April 8th, another total eclipse, another total solar eclipse. I imagine there's been just a little bit of buzz about this.
Oh, just a little bit. The eclipse is going to go. We have 20 parks and historic sites that are going to experience some totality. So that's quite a few, and we're pretty excited. We're busy planning a bunch of really cool events, and we're expecting a lot of people to come out and see it at our parks.
Well, let's kind of start there. Like, I don't know if off the top of your head or if you've got a list handy, like which state parks are going to be in the path of totality, especially those that are close to the Mississippi, I think, since this is the Mississippi Valley Traveler podcast.
I do have a list. And actually, if people go to our website, MissouriStateParks.com, down at the bottom, there's a button that has our spokesmoon. And it send you right to all of our information on the 2024 eclipse. So most of the information I have actually is on our website. But I would say Trail of Tears State Park, which is right on the river there, a little bit north of Cape Girardeau. They have over 4 minutes of totality, and so they are planning some really cool things there. That's a really good place to see it. Tawasagi State Historic Site, which is um, further south of Cape Girardeau. They're also planning a big event, and they're right there on the river. And then further in, we've got Bollinger Mill State Historic Site, and they're going to have just over 4 minutes of totality. They're planning some big events. Battle of Pilot Knob is in the path of totality. And let's see, we've got Current River and Echo Bluff, which are by Salem and Eminence. So again, further in from the river, but they're in the path of totality. And Johnson Shedden State Park. Johnson Shedden State Park is also right there. They're going to experience, I believe, just over 2 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of opportunities. So I'm kind of curious, like at Trail of Tears State Park, what are some of the special events that they might have planned for that day?
So they're going to have programs running Friday through Sunday. They'll have limited programs on Monday because they expect such a large number of visitors. But the park opens at 7. They say to pack a picnic and come early because they do have really limited parking. And they have several long trails that will have good viewing opportunities.
All right. What are they doing the weekend before it then? They have some Eclipse related programming going on that Friday through Sunday?
Yes, they do. They'll have telescopes and educational activities and a lot of fun stuff. And I think they're still working on finalizing those details. But yeah, they're one of the few parks that will have stuff going on the weekend before the eclipse. So
All
you
right.
can make a whole weekend and hit Trail of Tears and then go to one of the other ones that have more activities during the eclipse event too.
So for folks that are going to try to view the eclipse, obviously we do not want people looking directly into the sun.
Yes.
Are the parks and state park sites going to be providing glasses for viewing, or are people responsible for getting their own?
We will have glasses available for purchase. They're also available if you want to purchase them ahead of time. I think they're $1 a piece on our website. And I would recommend if you are planning to purchase some viewing glasses, do it sooner rather than later, because last time we sold out. So yeah. So we do have viewing glasses and they will have some of the parks that are having events will have telescopes with solar filters on them and have those available for viewing as well.
So I know, yeah, I suppose to some folks, April 8th might still seem like it's pretty far away, but I think some people have been planning for this for quite some time. Do you have a sense now about which areas within the path of totality are expecting the most visitors and which sites might already be near capacity for camping or lodging?
Well, for camping, our campground reservations open a year in advance. So a lot of our campgrounds are already booked. Not that it hurts to keep checking because sometimes people cancel. So I would recommend to keep doing that. Most of our campgrounds and lodging are full as far as I know right now. But keep checking. For staff who work outside of the Boot Heel area who are coming to help, we had to get hotel rooms in Festus, which is a little further away. So I would say if you don't have reservations for lodging, get them now to be able to get as close as you can.
Right. So from Festus, I guess the nearest park would probably be Trail of Tears.
Yeah, and I will be working at Johnson Shut-in, so that's that's a little bit further away even. Yeah, Trail of Tears and also let's see, Han, I think is closer to Festus. They'll
Hmm.
have a pretty good viewing window, and they're in St. Genevieve or outside of St. Genevieve, and also the Felix Valley State Historic Site. Um, they'll have in St. Genevieve. They'll have a pretty lengthy viewing time in totality as well.
Right. So I was just thinking about that. Like if you haven't made, like if you're gonna get a room somewhere, you wanted to get a room somewhere, probably we're talking at this point, the southern end of metropolitan St. Louis would be the place where the rooms were most likely to be.
Yeah,
And gosh, let's see, from Festus to Trail of Tears State Park is at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half, maybe a little longer if there's traffic.
yeah. Luckily, the eclipse is really going to be late in the afternoon, so around lunchtime, a little bit later. So you don't have to get up super early to drive
Right.
that hour.
Exactly, right. And unfortunately, there's no rain checks for this if the weather turns out to be bad. So there are no
Yeah,
guarantees with any natural phenomenon that you're actually going to get to see it. Um,
yeah.
so, all right. So I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. So you, when you were looking for rooms then too for your staff, you weren't able to find anything around Cape Girardeau then even,
No, no. Yeah, it was pretty booked up.
right? Because in that path, the totality path through Missouri, there really aren't much in the way of population centers. Cape
Yeah,
Girardeau would be the closest, and then St. Louis. So yeah, I guess if you haven't booked a room yet and you're going to come the night before, you're probably looking at St. Louis and then expecting to do some driving.
yeah.
Um, so if people live nearby and want to go visit a site, so let's call them day trippers.
Okay.
Do you have any particular tips for them to make the day go a little smoother or
Well, I would say do your research ahead of time, figure out where you're going to go, plan extra time. We are expecting to be at maximum capacity at our sites. So parking's going to be limited, so you might want to get there plenty early. You, like I said, you want to do your research and figure out some of our sites are going to have food available. Like I know at um, Bollinger Mill, they're going to have a food truck there, but other places are not. So you need to know if you need to bring your own food. Um, and I would say come with a sense of wonderment because it's a really cool phenomenon, but also come with kindness because there's going to be a lot of people and it's going to be crowded and we're going to do the best we can to make sure everybody has a wonderful, really cool experience. We can't help if it's cloudy. uh we'll do our best. But bring your patience and plan ahead of time is my best advice.
patience is great advice, right? So because we just had one of these 7 years ago, 2017, we had a full eclipse, full
Hmm.
solar eclipse. What were some of the lessons that came from that?
Um, planning ahead, buying way more eclipse glasses than we thought we needed. Like I said, we ran out. Um, uh, we started planning that one really, and we probably should have started even earlier than we did. Um, and that one came right through Central Missouri, which is where I'm at, and we had a big event at the on the state capitol on the lawn there. Um, so that took a lot of planning and coordination. Um, so just like this one has as well.
Right. And I guess the other big lesson from that, what we already said, was folks need to be patient because
Yeah.
a lot of people are going to try to see this. Traffic is going to be bad at times. Maybe not as horrible in the morning as after the eclipse, but after the eclipse is over, when everybody's trying to leave at the same time, it's going to take a while to get out of there. And just a few deep breaths, put on some good music, don't hurry, don't be
Yeah.
a jerk.
The where our parks are, the scenery is beautiful. Just enjoy it.
Absolutely. So what do you remember? So you had a chance to see the last eclipse in 2017, then what was your experience like of that?
Yeah, I did. I mentioned we had the big event on the Capitol lawn. I um did not work at that event. I don't know how I managed to not work at that event, but I did. Um, and instead, I went to my first graders' elementary school and helped out with the kids there, experience the event. And we still talk about how cool that was. And there was we had a pretty long time in the dark and being with the little first graders who were experiencing this, being dark in the daytime
Hmm.
and, oh, where did all the bird sounds go? And it was really fun to experience that with my daughter and her first grade class.
Great. And now they're what, eighth grade?
Seventh.
Seventh grade? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But we still talk about it.
Great. She's going to start to think these things happen all the time then.
I know, but they don't. This one, I mean, it seems like in the past few years they have, but this will be the last one for another 20 years. I think 2044 is the next time it'll be seen in the contiguous United States. So, yeah, if you can get out and see this, you should.
Absolutely. I am a little older than an eighth grader at this point, and I don't remember before 2017. I don't remember ever seeing a full solar eclipse. So these are special events, and I understand why a lot of people would want to be out there and see it. But just the patience thing. Remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
All right. So based on your experience maybe from 2017 and what you've seen from Buzz and advanced reservations so far, is there any Missouri Parks property within that path of totality that you think might be less busy or than the others? Or
I mean, there are several sites that aren't necessarily having watch parties because the staff is maybe going to a different site to help out at a bigger event and that sort of thing. So those parks will be open, but they may not be as popular because they don't have activities going on necessarily. Like Grand Gulf State Park, which is sort of in the center of the state, but it's still in the path of totality. That's an unmanned facility, and it's a really cool facility. If you've never been there, they have kind of a we'll call it Missouri's Grand Canyon. But
Hmm,
as far as I know, they are not having an event, and so that might, and like I said, they're in the path of totality, so that may be an out of the way place to view it. Um,
anything else that you can think of that might fit that? Might be a little bit more work to get to, or maybe you've got to park and hike for half an hour to get to a good viewing spot. So I guess the other thing to think about, and maybe you have some recommendations for people, is you want to be in a place that's also got a good clear view of the sky, right?
I, well, of course, Tom Sock Mountain is our highest point in Missouri. So
Mm,
if you want to hike up there, you'd probably have a really good view of the sky.
absolutely.
Um, but it's a hike. Um, and I think trying to think. Hunter Dawson State Historic Site, which is in New Madrid, they have some open lawn, and they are not doing an event. They're going to be over at Tausagi. So, they're the I don't think that will be very crowded.
Hmm.
Trying to think. I actually Morris is down there in the Boot Heel, and they're an unmanned facility. But it has been a really long time since I've been there, and I cannot picture what it looks like. If that would be a good viewing area. Morris is kind of in the like on Crowley's Ridge, if you're familiar with the Boot Heel.
Sure.
Yeah. Hmm. And if you want to be like just outside of totality, we have several parks that are just outside that might be, you wouldn't necessarily get the full ring of fire, but it would still be pretty dark and pretty cool to see. Looking at my map here to get an idea for you. Trying to think of ones that have good open areas. Well, Montauk, that's one of our trout parks. So they have some open area. And they're not too far out of the path of totality.
All right. So you would still get most of the Eclipse experience,
Right. It
just
just
maybe not
wouldn't.
quite the full Ring of Fire.
Hmm. Yeah.
But you're just
All of our parks in Missouri, all of Missouri will get some eclipse effect. So really anywhere in Missouri you can experience it a little bit. But like I said, you wouldn't get the full Ring of Fire totality effect.
right.
Hmm.
Well, great. Those are some really good tips. I appreciate your expertise and taking the time to share this with us. And if people want to look up some of this on their own, remind us where they can go, a good resource.
Yeah, absolutely. Our site, we have all this information on our website, and that's MissouriStateParks.com.
All right. And I will put a link to that in the show notes.
Great.
Thanks so much for your time,
Thank,
Allison. I appreciate it.
thank you for having me on.
Hey, Dean Klinkenberg here, interrupting myself. Just wanted to remind you that if you'd like to know more about the Mississippi River, check out my books. I write the Mississippi Valley Traveler guidebooks for people who want to get to know the river better. I also write the Frank Dodge Mystery Series set in places along the Mississippi. Read those books to find out how many different ways my protagonist Frank Dodge can get into trouble. My newest book, Mississippi River Mayhem, details some of the disasters and tragedies that happened along Old Man River. Find any of them wherever books are sold. Cory Jobe is president and CEO of Great Rivers and Routes Tourism Bureau based in Alton, Illinois. And Cory is here to tell us a few tips for viewing the eclipse on the Illinois route of this eclipse in 2024. Cory, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you, Dean, for having me. I'm excited. This will be my second solar eclipse in not too many years. I was around for the 2017 and excited that Illinois is going to be in the path for 2024.
Boy, talk about being in the path too. There's a pretty wide swath of southern Illinois that will see a full solar eclipse. Can you just kind of give us a ballpark sense of how wide the area is through Illinois where the people will be able to see the full eclipse?
Yeah, so we're, obviously the base or the view of totality is the Carbondale, McCanda area. That was I think they call it the crossroads of the eclipse because that was the epicenter in 2017 and again in 2024 coming up. But a wide path throughout southern Illinois, really starting within our area. We're at 90+%, which is great. It's not 100%, but it's still 90%. 90+%. We're pretty excited about that. But all of southern Illinois um, will experience it. And so, we represent 6 counties in Southwest Illinois. So many of our counties will be in that path, and we're looking forward to it.
So I know there are only really a couple of population centers, and on the Missouri side, Cape Girardeau, but it's right there on the border, and then Carbondale. But otherwise, there's a lot of open space. Do you have a sense of right now, like what areas you're hearing are probably most likely to be most heavily visited?
Yeah, I think again, I can recall from 2017, all the hotels were sold out, but it was amazing. I think we were still trying to we're trying to judge really how many people were in Southern Illinois or in the Carbondale Shawnee National Forest area. And I was living in Chicago back then, and I was in the area the week of, and then through the event. And I just remember hiking one day at the Shawnee National Forest, taking some journalists with me, and I couldn't believe the amount of cars that was there. And I said, this is going to be a concern, number one, about traffic. And really, it was because there were so many Airbnbs and RV parks and camping and one-off type locations. And I remember after the eclipse was over, it took me 16 hours to drive from Carbondale SIU campus to Chicago.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And so it was quite an adventure. And so I think you're going to see something like that again. Obviously, we are checking in with our hotels. We're a pretty big population center outside of Carbondale area. Some of our hotels are starting to see an uptick in bookings. We're not seeing many sold out at the moment, but I think we're starting to see a movement in hotel overnight stays. The versus in 2017, it was on a weekend, and obviously in 2024 it'll be on a Monday, and so that I think people are still trying to gauge how that's going to be. But yes, I think we'll see a pretty good, healthy overnight stay at our lodging, but we have RV parks and campground facilities too. And so it's obviously a different time of year than it was in 2017, and it's on a Monday. And so I think we're still waiting to see some better numbers closer to the eclipse.
Right. So, in 2017, it was in August, so it was a little more favorable time to be spending a lot of time outdoors. This year on April 8th, you never know quite what the weather's going to be like. It could snow. It could be 80 degrees.
Welcome to the Midwest, right?
Exactly.
We have a consultant that we're working on a tourism master plan for the region, and she's from Portland, Oregon, and her son, they're traveling. They're going to be traveling to the area and come out a week early and experience. They may try to go to Garden of the Gods or Shawnee National Forest and come back up. But yes, it's just a different, in 2017, families were traveling for the week, and it was a summer last minute travel before back to school. So we'll just see what happens on a Monday. We can't control the date.
That's right.
Or the weather.
Hopefully there won't be any clouds, so we'll be able to see the eclipse.
Let's hope for beautiful sunshine and no clouds that day. Yes.
So I am gonna guess that if somebody hasn't booked a room yet and they're thinking of coming, Carbondale is probably going to be a hard place to get a room even now.
I would think so. I mean, I would encourage, there's 37 certified tourism bureaus in Illinois. We're one of 37. The southernmost tourism bureau covers the Carbondale area. I would encourage your listeners to search out those destinations, their websites. We have a landing page dedicated to all of our solar eclipse events, the events that are happening. We have a watch party, but there's also a couple other things happening in the area and some good spots to view. And you can go right on our website and look for hotel rooms and book packages, those sorts of things.
So at this point, what are a couple of the important tips you're offering people if they haven't made any plans yet?
Well, I would make sure, just from a personal experience, it's funny. I was reliving a lot of this last couple of months as we were making our final plans. And I would encourage listeners to make sure you have a full tank of gas wherever you're going and pack some snacks. Doesn't matter because there's going to be traffic. This, as we all know, doesn't happen very often. And this might be the last time some of our generations get to see it. And so be patient. I would plan ahead as much as possible in terms of restaurant reservations, get hotels booked immediately if possible. Again, I think the Carbondale area is going to be more difficult, but I'm assuming there's probably still some rooms available. I don't know that. But the better chance outside of that, as you come further north and west into the state through our area, I can tell you there are still hotel rooms available, still reservations that can be made. But patience, pack snacks and plan ahead because I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't make up your mind on Friday that you're going to go somewhere to view the solar eclipse in Illinois because I think it'll be too late.
Yeah. And so just for some context, about how long a drive is it from Alton to Carbondale?
I'd say about 3 hours.
About 3 hours? Yeah.
Yep.
So you can do that. The eclipse is in the afternoon. I think it hits the Mississippi River around 2 o'clock in the afternoon or so, and then progresses to the east from there. So I'm almost based on what you said too, with your experience, a 16-hour drive back to Chicago. I'd almost say if you have the time, maybe they should spend 2 nights there, right?
Yes.
Stay Sunday night and Monday night, so that then you don't have to deal with all that traffic trying to get back to Chicago or some other place.
Correct. I wish I had thought about that too. I was ready to go home. I'd been in Southern Illinois for a week plus, needed to get back to meetings. But yes, and I would think the closer you get, a hotel, if you book through hotels, there might be 2 night minimum, Sunday night, Monday night. So be prepared. But yes, I would, there's plenty of things to see and do in, downstate Illinois. There's a whole, Illinois is so large. Not only is there things to see and do along the Great River Road in our area, but the Shawnee National Forest and Giant City State Park and the lodge there, just beautiful, beautiful outdoor nature-based product that you can hike. And there's a great winery scene in Southern Illinois and really some really unique small towns. And so plan ahead. There's not only is it, it'd be cool to see the eclipse, but there's a lot of unique things to see and do in downstate.
Yeah, if they can, folks can get there even early enough on Sunday to have some time to look around and visit some of the local businesses. It's a little more spread out.
Yes.
There's not a density of tourist sites in that part of Illinois. There's a lot to see and do, lots of places to hike. And in early April, there should be some wildflowers starting to bloom. But as you said, like Giant City State Park is in the path of this. It's one of my favorite places to go. The lodge is beautiful and they have great fried chicken.
Yes, they do.
And then all of the Shawnee National Forest is pretty much in the path of totality.
Yes.
So one thing I know when I was thinking about this myself, I'm one of these stragglers where I have not firmed up any plans yet. I have a couple of possibilities I've been waiting on, but one of the things to think about too, if you're going to be in the forest, even Giant City or Shawnee National Forest, is you still need to find a spot that's pretty open, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, the trees are going to block your view of much of the experience.
That is correct. Yes. I remember in 2017, we were at Saluki Stadium on the campus of Southern Illinois University, the football stadium. And, it was a little bit of an overcast day in that part of the state. So that wasn't great. But yes, you need some wide open space to view. And so just begin to think about that too. And, again, there are so many events happening throughout Illinois, especially in Southern Illinois. A lot of communities. I get served ads all day long, it seems like, on Facebook about different things that are happening. So again, we have a list of events. We have an official watch party. If you can't make it that far south in the state, we've got plenty of opportunity here in Southwest Illinois.
Right. That was a great tip for you had there too about packing some food and maybe some water too. Is yeah,
Yes.
like there's not a lot of places to fuel up or to eat when you get down in some of those parts of Southern Illinois. So be good to have some food with you in case you find out you've got a 4 hour wait to get a table somewhere or
Yes, agree. I mean, I think it's just important you think about that, right? Like you're going on a road trip, like the good old days, right? You make sure you just pack things you just never know. That's what my experience was in 2017, and I'm assuming it'll be that same way again in 2024.
so I know like, things aren't necessarily going to be like they were in 2017, but were there some spots in 2017 that turned out to have a pretty good view of the eclipse that were not nearly as packed?
Hmm. I think maybe again, I think further up in like toward our area, but I remember even as far north as Effingham, but in here in the southwest part of the state, not as packed, not as busy. But for the most part, all around the Carbondale, um, McCanda, all that area was pretty busy. I mean, to the point that people just parked on streets or side roads. That's how it got a little too busy. And so, yes, I mean, I would say the further, if you want to be in the totality, you want to be there. But if you're okay with a bit of a, um, 90 to 95%, you can come to the southern part. I mean, southwest part of the state. Yes, I think the further south you go, the better. But again, keeping within, in this St. Louis metro area, is still going to be plenty of opportunity and things to do.
Hmm. Yeah, and I'm trying to think off the top of my head of some of the spots. I would be willing to bet the Garden of the Gods hiking trail, that camping area there is probably going to be overwhelmed with people because for one thing, you have such a wide view of the eclipse from there. Probably that is not the ideal spot to go, especially at the last minute.
No, I would think not. And I'm just looking. There is going to be, it looks like Southern Illinois University is doing quite a bit of things again this year, which is exciting to see that. That was just a really nice setup there. Um, you know, they opened it up for the football stadium and other places on campus. And, that's I think, the official NASA certified spot.
Hmm.
And so I was just looking at their website and seeing some of the different things they're going to be doing. But yes, they're not saying right now that anything's closed. But again, just make sure you plan and think ahead well in advance.
I might almost be tempted to find a small town somewhere that's got a nice little park and just pull in there to watch the eclipse. Probably aren't going to be nearly as many people around, especially around the state parks and some of the more popular sites within Shawnee National Forest.
Well, I agree with you. I knew many people back in 2017 that would leave Springfield, Illinois, and just drive as far south as they could and find a small community park or rural street or country road that they would be able to park on. But yes, I mean they're and I forgot about this location too, is the Bald Knob Cross area. They did a big event and they're doing one again this year. And so that's a great location. That's probably a ticketed event.
Hmm.
But I know a lot of media that set up there too to view back in 2017. So
And that's around Alto Pass, I think,
yes,
right?
I'm sorry, that's Alto Pass area. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So the clock is ticking for me too. If you're going to spend the night, you probably want to book a reservation as soon as possible. Otherwise, you're going to be looking at being a couple hours away possibly, which isn't the end of the world, but it just means
No.
a longer drive, especially coming back.
Yeah, and I mean, I haven't. I'd be remiss if I didn't pitch and talk to you a little bit about what we're having a viewing party in Collinsville along Route 66 Our event's going to be from noon to 3 on April 8th. And we're partnering with the city of Collinsville and Old Herald Brewery and Distillery. And we're going to have all sorts of activities from live music to Old Herald Brewing Distilleries brewing a dark noon whiskey and a solar shandy,
All
which is
right.
great. And they're a really cool brewery distillery. But we're going to have different activities, Uptown Scoops. A local custard shop is going to do moon pie custard. And there's going to be a lot of lawn games and activities, live music, eyewear, all sorts of stuff. So we're going to be doing that from noon to 3 on Monday, and would encourage any of your listeners who may not want to travel too far south or can't find rooms to join us on in Collinsville.
Great. And I'll post a link to that in the show notes as well,
Oh,
so
good.
people
Okay.
can look at there.
Great. Yeah, we have a whole lineup of activities and different events. I know Cokia Mounds is another great location. They don't have any official events, but obviously they have plenty of land to view. I know the Skyview Drive-In Movie Theater, one of the last drive-in movie theaters on Route 66 over in Litchfield, is doing a whole weekend of activities, and there's others. So a lot of different locations.
Right. And because of the time of day of the eclipse, like there are the opportunities to do it as a day trip.
Yes, absolutely.
Just keep in mind it may take several hours to get back home when it's over. So
yes, I think you're right. I think that's what caught me by surprise the most is the amount of people that drove to Southern Illinois. And that I remember that traffic. I remember we went up 57 and it was just we didn't get clear till, oh my gosh, we were well north of Effingham, and it was just bumper to bumper for hours upon hours, but nothing I'd ever seen.
You could have almost walked to Chicago in 16 hours.
Yes, you're right. I had my dog with me too. He wasn't very happy.
So what was your memory? What was your experience of the eclipse like itself? What do you remember, especially about being able to view that?
Well, it was just even though it was a little bit overcast, just the change in the sky and the temperature and everything getting so quiet, and it just seemed like it kind of time stood still for a moment. I would have probably rather viewed it from somewhere in an open field where there wasn't a ton of national television cameras and all that sort of stuff. That probably impacted my experience a bit. But in the role I had, I didn't have that choice, so I couldn't do that. But I still have friends and colleagues and acquaintances that still talk about it. I was obviously working in Illinois state government then, and then many people just took off that morning and started driving. And but it's you think about all the cool things you do in a career, and I've gotten to do a lot of cool stuff, and that being a part of the eclipse was it ranks pretty high up there. So
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that I'm looking forward to experiencing Collinsville, obviously, but it won't be total path of totality, but it'll still be a nice experience.
Right.
Very unique experience.
And you won't be surrounded by all those national TV cameras this time, right? So
nope. I hope not. Maybe we will. I don't know. I think we'll have some locals, but no, I think we'll have just a relaxed afternoon and hopefully get to enjoy it.
Great. So tell us a little bit about Great Rivers and Routes.
Sure. So Great Rivers and Routes Tourism Bureau, we are the certified destination marketing and management organization for a 6-county region just outside of St. Louis. Across the river, we have all of Madison, Macoupin, Montgomery, Greene, Jersey, Calhoun counties, and then the city of East St. Louis and St. Clair County. What I like to, we're famously known as the only place in North America where the mother road of Route 66 intersects with the Great River Road, which is also, the Great River Road is also an all-American road. which is pretty unique and special. And so we're responsible for driving travel to and throughout our 6-county region. And so we do that in multiple ways, from leisure to sports tourism. We do a lot of motor coach and group travel, and then experiencing an uptick in international travel. It's not fully rebounded from the pandemic. Everything else has surpassed pandemic levels, except international travel. It's getting better. But we literally represent the last 100 miles of Route 66 in the state of Illinois, from Verdon, Girard, and Macoupin County down to the Chain of Rocks Bridge. And we're gearing up for the 100th anniversary of Route 66, which will be in 2026.
Wow.
So it's going to be a major year for the country. It's also this country's 250th birthday in 2026, and locally and in the region, it's Miles Davis's 100th birthday. It would have been Miles Davis's 100th birthday. So we have a lot to celebrate in 2026. And so, yeah, we're pretty excited. We represent 39 communities in those 6 counties, and we get to tell the stories of people, places, sites, attractions, unique experiences every day.
That's fantastic. And of course, the great rivers in your region. You've got the 3 big rivers that kind of come together there, the Illinois, Missouri, and Mississippi. Yep.
And what's pretty unique is we actually have 4 national scenic byways that traverse our region. Route 66, the National Road. Then we also have the Great River Road. And then, as you said, we also have the 33-mile stretch of the Meeting of the Great Rivers National Scenic Byway behind me. That is a 33-mile stretch from Hartford to Pere Marquette State Park, and that's where the confluence of the 3 rivers, the Illinois, Missouri, and Mississippi, meet. And we actually manage the Meeting of the Great Rivers National Scenic Byway. Great Rivers and Routes Tourism Bureau does. So we're responsible for maintaining and telling the story of the route and the confluence of the 3 rivers, and from various roadside attractions, exhibits, you name it.
So what is the best way for people to follow or get information from Great Rivers and Routes?
You can go to our website at riversandroutes.com. You can also follow us on all the social channels, hashtag Rivers and Routes, or at Rivers and Routes.
Fantastic. And I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. And
Great.
well,
All
thank
right.
you so much for your time. And
Yep, Dean, thank you. Have a good afternoon.
And now it's time for the Mississippi Minute. The last time we had a full solar eclipse in our area was August of 2017, and I was lucky enough to be able to experience this eclipse on an island in the Mississippi River with a bunch of friends. 7 of us packed our gear into canoes and a kayak and paddled from a boat landing all the way down to this island where we camped for a night. And then got up the next day in anticipation, waiting for the eclipse experience. So I thought I would just share with you a little snippet from my journal from that particular trip, just around those moments when the eclipse really got going. After a hearty breakfast, we spent the rest of the morning packing, swimming, chasing the shade, swimming some more, and chatting as we waited for the eclipse to begin. The day heated up fast, hence the multiple swims and shade chasing. So when the eclipse finally began around noonish, I felt relieved. We could track the progress through the glasses, which was pretty cool, but there wasn't much observable difference until at least 2/3 of the sun was eclipsed. At that time, the light began to get more dull and some of the shadows changed. Shortened and in some cases, ovals became prominent. Just a few minutes before totality, the woods behind us got very quiet, and the anticipation in our group was palpable. As the moon completely covered the sun, there wasn't a gradual change in light, but a quick transition to dusk. Everywhere I looked, on every horizon, it was sunset. An awesome spectacle. The locusts chirped loudly again as it got dark, and a flock of Canada geese came out of nowhere and quacked loudly as they flew past us. and then it was over. Someone said the whole experience was just about 90 seconds, but I didn't track it myself. We weren't all that isolated. In the morning, several cars parked on the Missouri shore and someone flew a drone over us. We also had a plane fly over us, pretty darn low, maybe just 40 feet off the ground, and there were quite a few pleasure boaters that passed the island. Of course, during the eclipse, I didn't notice any of that. So while that one was a pretty quick experience with a minute and a half to maybe 2 minutes of totality, this time around it'll be twice as long. So that's something to look forward to. And I look forward to going back and seeing if this eclipse inspires a different reaction in me. And I'd really love to hear what your experiences were like with the eclipse, whether from 2017 or if you have a chance to get out in April and experience this one. So drop me a note at MississippiValleyTraveler.com/contact and tell me about your eclipse experience. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the series on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss out on future episodes. I offer the podcast for free, but when you support the show with a few bucks through Patreon, you help keep the program going. Just go to patreon.com/Dean Klinkenberg. If you want to know more about the Mississippi River, check out my books. I write the Mississippi Valley Traveler guidebooks for people who want to get to know the Mississippi better. I also write the Frank Dodge Mystery Series that's set in places along the river. Find them wherever books are sold. The Mississippi Valley Traveler podcast is written and produced by me, Dean Klinkenberg. Original music by No Offense. See you next time.